Hello and welcome. It is I, it is me, it is your favorite philosopher, Alswoid. In this video, we will be discussing 3 moral dilemmas that will hopefully reveal something to us about the nature of morality itself. That is, whether it is relative or universal, that is, whether it's relative to different situations, or whether there's always something that is right and just to do in every situation. So with that being said, you might be wondering, Alf, what exactly is a moral dilemma? In a nutshell, a moral dilemma is a choice one has to make between two equally unsavory choices, or rather two choices that have equally unsavory consequences. It is essentially having to choose the lesser of two evils, based on what you think is right or best. Let's dive right into our moral dilemmas. The first of which we will call the cheating wife problem. So let's say that you work at a very large, successful company as a network administrator, and essentially what a big part of your job is filtering through held emails. And what that means is that for the company, any emails sent to company emails that don't come from other company emails get registered as spam, for which you, then the network administrator, have to choose to release or withhold from being sent to the person they're sent to. One day you're at work sifting through the spam emails, looking for which one you want to start with, and then you notice that the address to whom one of these emails is sent is to your best friend's wife. So, piquing your interest, you click on the email, and you can quickly gather from the contents of this email that the wife has been cheating on your best friend. And from the contents, it appears that she's been doing so for quite some time. You release the email, but you then find yourself in a moral dilemma. That is, the company has a very strict policy about releasing the confidential contents of people's emails or making any kind of company information related to your job public or released to anyone other than people within the company. It is your job to essentially be quiet. However, obviously, your best friend is one of the most beloved people in your life, and you know that this will destroy his life, or it will significantly hurt him, or if this continues to go on, it's just evidently not the right thing. So, you are left with a dilemma. So the question then becomes, can you get away with releasing this email? Will you lose your job if you release this email? The dichotomy we meet here is between, as I mentioned in the beginning, self-preservation or the absolute good, or the community greater good, or this larger sense or intuitive goodness. If you release the email, you risk losing your job and your livelihood, that is your self-preservation, but if you don't, then you have to live knowing that someone who you love and care about is being wronged every single day. So what do you do? Let me know in the comments. Moral dilemma number 2. We will call this one Bali Blitz. You've just been on vacation for 2 weeks with your wife and with your 18-year-old son. Your bags are all packed and you're at the airport getting ready to go home when you notice an officer with a sniffer dog coming your way. He begins sniffing your bags, and as he goes over yours and your wife's, the dog is relatively inactive, just having a light sniff, and continues on to your son's bag. But you notice that as the dog begins sniffing out your son's bag, the dog is becoming increasingly active. And with every single sniff, the officer's face becomes more and more stern. And at this moment, you're thinking to yourself, dear God, I am going to give this boy the worst scolding of his life. When suddenly you recall that you're in Bali, and there is a zero tolerance for drugs policy, and your son is 18. You can barely finish this thought when the officer begins opening up and going through your son's bag, and sure enough, he finds a small quantity of marijuana stashed in the bag. The officer looks up at you and your wife and your son and asks, "Whose bag is this?" As the officer says this, you notice in the corner of your eye that your wife is getting ready to step forward and claim the bag as her own. What do you do? This one's a little more tricky than the first one, isn't it? Because the question here isn't necessarily about the greater good, but more so about altruism. Altruism versus self-preservation. right? So who is going to take the fall for this? Your son, who did it, that could be the universal, right? But at the same time, it's your son, he's only 18, he's still learning the ways of the world, he's still rather foolish. I don't know anyone who isn't rather foolish at 18. Should you tell the officer that it's his, or should you let your innocent wife take the fall for this, or should you stand up and take the fall for this? I think that this moral dilemma also plays on the fatherly protective role. That is, that assuming that the man should stand up and man up and take the fall for his son. Doubtless, this is a very tricky one. What is the right absolute thing to do? Is there a right absolute thing to do in this situation? Let me know what you think in the comments. Moral dilemma number 3. We will call this one cruise control. So you have been on a cruise with your best friend, a singles cruise, getting ready to meet some ladies or gentlemen, and it's been going pretty good for the past week, until the captain announces that you guys are going to have to make an emergency stop because the ship is experiencing some problems. You stop, the ship does something, you're not really aware of what's going on, what's being fixed, but soon enough, after a couple of hours of being stopped, the captain announces that everything's okay and you are going to proceed to your next destination. However, the next day, you start to notice that the ship is going a bit off balance. It seems something doesn't seem right. Shortly after you notice that, the captain announces that water has breached the ship's hull, and that everyone is to evacuate from the emergency evacuation boats. You, stumbling around, get separated from your friend, and you end up on the last boat off the ship. As the boat's being lowered, it hits the side of the ship hard enough to leave a small hole in it. Once you get placed into the water, sure enough, there is water coming onto the boat. But lucky for you, there is a mathematician among the 10 people, including yourself, on the boat. The mathematician quickly calculates that at the rate the water's coming in, if 9 people are to use their hands to move the water from the boat with one person resting and rotating one person resting, then you guys will be able to likely survive for approximately 5 hours. By keeping one person resting and having that rotation, it will ensure that people won't tire as quickly and that you'll be able to survive for about 5 hours. However, of course, if the rescue team doesn't arrive within 5 hours, you will all die. You're selected as the one to take the first break, and the others begin using their hands to remove the water from the boat. However, out of the corner of your eye, you notice one of the other boats, and therein is your best friend waving to you and trying to give you motions to come to their boat. You notice that there's only 9 people on their boat, and that you could swim to it and likely live by joining that boat. However, if you leave the boat, it's likely that everyone in the boat will not make it longer than 2 hours, and they will all die unless rescue comes within 2 hours, which is extremely unlikely. So essentially, here we meet utilitarianism. That is, do you choose self-preservation to leave the boat and, well, hope that the others don't follow you trying to swarm that boat, and you'll live, likely, hopefully, if you do that, or do you stay in the name of the greater good or the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people to help everyone in your boat relieve the water from the boat in order to hopefully make it until rescue comes? A hard decision, right? The primal choice between self-preservation and what's good for everyone. So what do you choose? Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? Is there always a right thing to do? Of all of these situations that I've discussed, was there always something that was better or more just, or something that could be argued as universal? Which moral dilemma do you think is the trickiest? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments. I personally feel that the Bali Blitz dilemma was the most difficult for me. I don't believe that I have an answer for that one. So if you like this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to give it a friendly thumbs up. And if you want to see continuous content or support my existing content and keep up with what I'm doing and my plans are and vote on things, join my Patreon. Links will be in the description, and I will see you guys soon.